It's called Jesus You Are. His name is Mac Opal, leading us to 22 minutes after 12. You're listening to the Artist Review with me, Tondi Rambani. I always get excited when I'm chatting to artists simply because there's so much that you get to hear about the stories, the journeys, and I think just the passion behind the music. And today, my guest is a singer-songwriter, producer, husband, father, entrepreneur, and you've watched his star rise from taking on the Idol stage in 2013 to hitting stages all around the world. 10 years in the game, he has released amazing music that has brought people joy, but more than anything, his music has brought people closer to God. He's a man on a mission and one that is living out his purpose. Please help me welcome Brenden Praise.
Such a deep. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, man.
It's such a pleasure. You know how I wanted to start this because I mean, in a lot of your music, you speak or you sing in a certain language.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, Swilohi Nibuti.
Yeah.
That's the right way, right?
Yeah.
And I can say Shukwe.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were you're Tonga. I'm not sure if you are Tonga or.
On my mom's side, yeah. So I grew up in Graskop, which is close to Bushbuckridge, which is where my parents grew up. So yeah, Tonga is a dominant language there. So yeah, I picked it up there.
That's amazing. Has it always been a dominant language for you, to a point where you're like, I'm using this language in my music?
No, I mean for a long time. So my actual language, my home language, is a language called Spulana, which is actually a dialect. It's kind of like a mixture of Sutu and Tonga and then other stuff. So it's what we speak in the area.
Sure.
But most times I'd speak English at school with my friends, and then when I went to varsity, my best friend was Tonga. So yeah, so we basically would speak Tonga all the time, and obviously with my grandparents, yeah, it would be a language that I was kind of forced to know. But I started to enjoy it because a lot of the music, especially in church, we used to sing a lot of Tonga hymns, and I used to love those songs. And so as I was growing as an adult and in my faith, like you start to reflect on the earlier music that you used to listen to,
Yeah.
and it starts to be more meaningful now that you understand it. So in that journey for me, it kind of felt like, oh man, there's such a big part of my identity that is within this language, and I'm missing out on it by creating music predominantly in English, which is a great language, but I feel like there's certain levels of expression that kind of go beyond the language, and it starts to be more cultural and spiritual than you could ever really connect with a certain language. So I felt like with me singing in Tonga, singing a song that my mom used to sing and her mom used to sing,
Sure.
there's just a level of depth to it than singing a song that I was taught that I don't really know the history of. So
Sure.
that's really where the language thing started to matter for me.
It's amazing how certain songs hit different when you sing them in your mother tongue, eh?
I think it's that thing. I think it's, I think obviously the spiritual realm is more real than the physical.
Sure.
So it's really just how connected is that song to the source, And so if your parents served Jesus and their parents served Jesus and they passed the song down through generation, then I feel like it's carrying so much weight, so much more weight and so much more meaning. So for me, a song like Hallelujah Nkateko, it's not just Hallelujah Nkateko. It reminds me of, so many people. My childhood is rooted in that song.
Sure.
So yeah, that's why for me, a lot of songs we pick up as we're growing. So those songs where you kind of learning it and it's been taught to you, and like every Sunday, this is what we're singing. Especially with me growing up, my dad's a pastor, so I spent a lot of time in the church, and so a lot of this music, you had to learn it back to front. And at the time, it's just lyrics, but as you grow older, you get the meaning of it, and you're like, wow. And like the other day, I was just kind of singing the song to a group that I was working with at church, and I went through the whole Hallelujah Nkateko song, and there's so much more layers and verses to it that have obviously over time people have just removed, and we just kind of sing the chorus and we sing one verse. But when you sing the whole thing, because it's all these hymns, there's these hymn books, Malamala, which is what I called
The project.
my project Malamala,
Malamala,
because Dinsimuta Malamala is the hymn book, the Tonga hymn book, like Itilongo for Zulu people. So the Odifila tsa Sesotho would be the Sotho one. So there's hymns that are like there, and that like, and also my father's, so sorry I'm talking so much.
No, I love it.
But I'm trying to just give you like context.
Context, yeah.
So my dad's father was like a Zion priest. So there's a lot of these things that were passed down and sort of so that's why for me the language is super important. Like I really I think it's such a beautiful language. I think, like I said, I think I'm closer to God when I'm speaking my own language.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, speaking about language, I found out that I'm like, okay, I'm not maybe found out, but I think it came to my realization that I'm 25% Tonga as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how much percentage you are.
I'm probably the same, eh?
Yeah, because my mom and her mom is Tonga, and
Yeah.
obviously my mom is like 50% then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I made the math, I'm like 25%.
Yeah.
But I love what you said about how you feel closer to God, also just like using your mother tongue
Yeah.
as well, which I feel like is really important. It's easy to lose the heritage, that we've been given,
Yeah.
and to dismiss that maybe because if I only sing in English, that's way cooler. And maybe more people will understand. But singing in your language, I think the courage that you had to go into music
Yeah.
with that, I think it's really amazing because it also makes people interested in the language itself, but also in, wait, this sounds beautiful. Like, what is he saying? Let me dig deeper into what he's saying.
Sure.
Whereas if it's in English, you're just like, oh, I hear everything, I understand.
100%. I also felt like with English, I mean, for me, it just felt like, again, I was missing a certain part of the music. So you can say the right things, but music is two-part, and a lot of it is the spirit that it's created in.
Sure.
So if my spirit is after God and I'm bringing this song as an offering to God, that is part of the song, right? It might not be in the lyrics, but it's the spirit in which you create. And so with the Tonga music, I realized that a lot of people that were loving the music were falling in love with how it makes them feel.
Wow.
And people would say, oh, this song is speaking to this. I feel like, I don't know what you're saying, but I feel like when I listen to the song, this is how I feel. I feel a certain peace. I feel a certain... And so it kind of, when you're working and you know that a lot of people are not going to understand the language, you're working so much more on the spiritual aspect of creating the music, making sure that you really are hearing from God. You're not writing something based on your own. The Bible says, lean not on your own understanding.
Yeah.
So you're going further than what you understand, and your melodies are so much more organic and more authentic than what they would be if you sort of understood. And I felt like when I was writing it in English, I was playing the game. I was saying, oh, what's working? What are other people doing that's working? But when I switched languages, it was like I was on uncharted territory. I'd never heard anyone create house, Tonga, gospel music.
Which is amazing.
It was like it was like a genre that didn't exist. And so for me, it allowed me to kind of push it to where I can and then let God take it from there and do what he does. And then I think that's what people sort of gravitated towards. Yeah.
I'll be playing Mukutori pretty soon. I think that song, when you released it, it was so amazing. Hearing it for the first time, just like, wait, you're singing Tonga. Oh, wait, this is such a vibe, And next thing, you sing people, like videos on Instagram that you were sharing and people were sharing on your stories as well.
Yeah.
Just people going crazy over that. And I'm like, wow. And not only just the fact that you were singing Tonga, but I think for me, it's the gospel message.
Correct.
I was like, this is a game changer, especially being in a space where the music industry is situated with, it's secular content, right? And the gospel has its own kind of field, a box. But being able to break out of that box and say, hey, I'm going to make this kind of music in this space.
Yeah.
And have people at Groove who are dancing to the song that's praising God. And it's like, that's such a game changer. Where did that start for you, where you were like, man, I want to share my faith through the music. I know this is how, the secular industry is going, but this is my heart. Like, when did that change for you?
I think, like I said, it's not, in itself, it's not like I didn't reinvent the wheel in that there was obviously house music and gospel music are quite close related in terms of, even if you listen to like American house music, there's a lot of gospel influence. A lot of it was gospel samples that they would then remix and make a house song and play that in the clubs. So I'm not really reinventing anything, but for me, what I realized was a lot of the music locally might have gospel lyrics, but were not spiritual songs. And I think that was the difference with Mukutsuri. Mukutsuri, like I would then, like people would be like, oh, is this like a gospel song? I'd be like, no, this is a spiritual song. Because it's not just about saying that, Jesus is Lord. It's, do you believe it? You know what I mean? And so for me, adding that element of a spiritual layer into the music was, I feel like that was what was groundbreaking about the song, and what people couldn't figure out what is different about this song to other gospel house songs was the fact that this was a spiritually layered song.
Sure.
And for me, that was the difference, and it's something to this day I still chase, even in creating, even when I'm making songs that are not gospel per se, the spirit of it needs to somehow be glorifying God. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, one of my biggest songs is Joy, Joy, which I've performed at churches.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a song that I wrote after I just gotten married and we had our first child. And it was the joy that I felt, And the spirit of that song, is it's in service to God. And so for me, that was what I was trying to kind of bridge that gap of, you can say the right things, but if it's not what you believe, there's an element that's missing. So I think that's what we sort of cracked with that song.
Sure, you did an amazing job. Because that joy, joy. I don't even know how you did those notes. You know what I'm saying?
That was so crazy. And that was one take. To
Wow.
this day, that's like my only song that I did one take and like the whole thing.
No way.
And that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, glory to God for that. Mukuturi coming up next just after this.
Everyone, get ready to save big with Meg's app.
Yo, man. One take.
Get
out of here, bro. Damn.
So it's just one lead vocal, and then we added all the backing stuff. But it was like,
and we're known for exceptional.
You better study something that's gonna bring you security.
Yeah.
And music is not, as certain as other, fields.
Yeah.
But for you going into that, I feel like it takes courage to say, I'm gonna study music. I don't know how the outcome is gonna be like. But how was it for you when you pitched it to the parents? Say, hey.
Yeah. So I didn't pitch it to the parents. The parents pitched it to me.
No way.
I just wanted to do music, and then they
wow.
were like, if you're gonna do music, at least study it.
Sure.
At least back it up with some level of academic knowledge. And so that's why I did it. But I also secretly had I needed to be in Gauteng because I was from a small town. So my whole goal was, as long as I'm in Gauteng, I can pursue whatever musical goals I have, because at least there'll be more opportunity. So for me, it was kind of like a win-win situation where they were like, okay, if you don't want to study anything else, you just want to do music, just rather study music, and then it's helping you in your quest, which they were right, So yeah, I think it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
It's great. I mean, hey, parents, do more of that. Support your kids.
Yeah,
for sure. And speaking about kids, I mean, your husband, earlier on, you're speaking about how you wrote Joy, like out of just the inspiration behind, you marrying your wife, Bumi. And it's just really beautiful having, witnessed, I think, your guys' love journey.
Yeah.
You've put it out there, and I think one of the biggest things with that is how inspiring it is to see a young couple, doing life the way that you are. I mean, we don't know the ins and outs of your relationship and everything,
Of
but
course, yeah.
it's just so beautiful watching how you guys are so, centered on God, and also sharing that with the world, saying, hey, this is how we're doing love, with God.
Yeah.
And it can be beautiful. Just maybe walk me through a bit like of that love journey, and what you feel has made you guys flourish in different seasons together as a young couple.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful part. I think getting married young was a great idea. That's one thing. My parents didn't think it was a good idea, but it was. For me, it's we've learned together and we've grown together, and I think that's the power of social media, is you can spread a positive message. And for us, I think we always wanted to spread whatever positive message we can, because there's always going to be negative things that you can find, and it's going to be in the news, and it's going to be on your TikTok feed and whatnot. So if you can sprinkle a little bit of light, I think you should, and that was always our goal, and I think we've been blessed enough to, it's not really our identity. We're not like a content couple type of thing, so a lot of it was super organic to say, this is what we like to do, and we would share some of those moments. But it's not something that we planned, like, oh, we're gonna create Christian love content.
Yeah.
It's actually for us like the less we do, the better. But when we do have something we think is helpful to share, we do, and I think it comes across as super organic, and I think that's why people sort of gravitate to it.
And being a young dad as well, what would you say you've learned about life that you possibly wouldn't have learned if you were a single guy?
I think I learned a lot of my trauma. I've learned to be better as a person because when you have a child, you realize how pure God makes us, and you realize you see a lot of yourself in your children, and you realize how much of yourself you've lost over time. And I think if you're willing to do the work, it's really exciting because it shows you what you could be. Like, children are fearless, and I'd look at my daughter and I'd look at my son, and they just like they'd take on challenges, and they'd get hurt and they'd get back up and they'd try again. And I think of times when I could do that, and this would be at a time when you can't do that anymore. You've lost that willingness to take chances and to take risks. So having kids for me is just the best reflection of yourself. You see yourself in the most purest form, and if you're willing to do the work, I think it's really exciting because you can get back to that, or a lot of that you can get back to. And yeah, man, for me that's like just been the best part of my life. Just children are just my kids are just like I always say, like I love my wife and I would die for my wife, but I would kill for my kids. And it's a different type of love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing to hear. And I mean, God, you've been good to me. God, you've been good to me. That's a new song that you released. All right.
Yeah.
And already it's sitting on over 100K streams on Apple Music alone.
Yeah.
Over 90K on Spotify.
Hey, you've done your research.
And to make sure. It's really incredible. I think it's been about like 2 weeks, 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 3 weeks into it. But you said something about releasing that song. I think you mentioned how you just released the song. Did you? It sounds like you didn't have the intention to release it the same way that you probably have released other music before. Tell me a bit about that whole.
Yeah. So
scenario.
generally, I mean, with me, we take a lot of time with our work. Like for me, it took me 2 years to make the Mala Mala album, and basically every song I give it a lot of time because for me, I want it to stand the test of time. I don't want to play a song 2 years from now and be like, feels like it's not finished. So it was the same with this song. I started working on it. I was actually checking my voice. I started working on the song in March, and I was just kind of working on it over time. I'll play every 2 weeks. I go into studio where we're sitting with the song, and I'd remove some stuff, maybe add some stuff, and then we went to the Sarah Jakes conference, the Women Evolve in Dallas with my wife, and it was such a beautiful experience. Like, it was incredible. And so we just wanted to do like a reel of like a recap reel. As we're doing the reel, and then I was like looking for like a song. What song can I use? Like on Instagram, you're like, what's the trendy songs people are using? And then I couldn't find the right song. So I ended up using that song because I had it on my phone. I was like, oh, actually, this song is pretty cool. Let me use this song. And then when I used that song, and then on TikTok, it just blew up.
Sure.
Like within a week, I think it was sitting on like 4,000 people had used that
the audio
on their own posts.
Yeah.
So as we got back, so I called, like, luckily I'm independent, so I called my distributor and I'm like, yo, people are loving the song and people keep asking me for the song, and I hate saying I don't know. So I was like, how quickly can we drop the song? And then the guy was like, this is probably like on a Friday. I'm like, how quickly can you drop the song? He's like, if you get me the master today, we can drop it next week. So then over the weekend, now I'm listening to the song. Now I'm like, oh, if I'm going to drop this, now I'm hearing so many mistakes. So now I'm spending the whole weekend just mixing the song because I produced it myself and then I mixed it.
Wow.
And then I'd done my own master and I was like, this master is not hitting the way. So I had to send it through. So I could only submit the song on Tuesday. So I submitted the song on Tuesday. And then the guy calls me like literally on Thursday, I think. Thursday morning. I asked him, I'm like, hey, were you able to load up the song? He's like, yeah, no, we're dropping tomorrow. So I'm like, what? We're dropping tomorrow.
Done.
Yeah, it was literally that. So literally like within 2 days, we sort of sorted everything out and we got the song out. And yeah, it was a different type of release. but it was also very freeing. You know, you realize that you don't need all this glamour, like this marketing. You know, people always think, "Ah, I gotta do a pre-roll, a rollout plan." It's like you don't need that. You know, if your song is speaking to a certain need, you can just put it out, and God will do the rest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing how God just works out, things that we just like, hey Lord, do your will. That's really incredible. You posted something on your stories, and I just want to hear from you, just in short. Sometimes it's not about the credit, it's about the outcome. What are you speaking about?
So I was watching a sermon by Pastor Mike Todd, and he was just talking about how men need to mend again. And he was just explaining the heart of a man when you are a man who mends, who fixes things.
Sure.
And one of the lines he said was that, that sometimes you won't get credit, especially if you are a man after God's heart, if you're doing the mending, if you're mending your net, and you're making sure that whenever you're sending your net out, it's catching fish, because you're looking at all the blind spots, you're looking at all the holes that it might have, and it's just it's encouraging to say that your part's you're not always going to be, they're not going to acknowledge you for everything that you're doing. People are not going to appreciate you for everything that you're doing, but what you're doing is going so much further, and it's creating a greater outcome. And so yeah, for me it was just encouraging to sort of find that within me, as a man, to there's things we do. You protect the home, you make sure the pool is clean, you do things.
I've seen you cleaning the pool.
I take a lot of pleasure in cleaning the pool, but people don't always say thank you.
Sure.
Like my kids come back, they just want to jump in, they want to swim, and it's like, for me, the pleasure is in seeing them swim.
Sure.
The pleasure is in things not falling apart, and sometimes that's the credit.
Oof.
Having people get to live normal lives, like that's the credit. People don't have, and so yeah, it's part of. I've been just like I'm constantly working on myself, how to be like a man God would be proud of. Not like a man that society thinks, oh, you're doing great. Because that's easy to fake. You can just post certain things. People are like, this is a great husband. But it's like when your phone is away, what kind of person are you? So yeah, that's what that was about.
Brenden Praise, what a great chat we've been having.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure, man. But before I let you go, I gotta insert. It's called Top 5. I've got 5 questions numbered 1 to 5. All right. Okay. All you gotta do is select a number. Maybe that's your blessed number.
Okay.
So what number are you gonna pick?
5.
5. All right, beautiful. So this just helps us to get to know you a bit better outside of the music and what you're known for. So number 5, what's your favorite thing about yourself? It can be a quality, a body feature, anything.
My favorite thing about myself, my ability to be invisible.
Damn, what do you mean? You have superpowers like that?
No, like I generally like I like to be behind the scenes. Like I have a way of being. I have a way of being in something, but not being loud about it, and I enjoy that. Like, for instance, one of the biggest songs now in the country is a song called "Horns in the Sun," which I did vocals on.
Sure.
And a lot of people will meet me and be like, "Wait, you did the vocals on that song?" But it's like, for me, it's one of those things. I enjoy being being between the lines.
Sure.
Like I feel like not a lot of people like doing that. People don't like being behind the scenes anymore. But for me, I take so much pride in being a part of something but not being visible for it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm gonna take that. Being invisible. Brenden Praise, it's been great being with you. Please go listen to all his projects, his new music, and the song that I'll be playing you just after the news. I'm gonna be playing you "God, You've Been Good to Me," and that's coming up. It's together with Free to Worship. But please check out Brenden Praise on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, all these platforms. Which other one did I miss?
TikTok.
TikTok
is a big one. People are sleeping on TikTok.
Yeah, please check it out. Check him out on TikTok as well. But from myself, Tondi, Rambani, and Brenden Praise, it's been good. Thank you so much. Coming up next, Benny Diamond with a different perspective.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Officially done now, for sure.
Yeah, now it's good. No, it's done. I had to make sure because I'm like, now I took like 3 minutes over. I overdid it. But I'm like, you know what? Let me just
So I have a question for you. So you say marrying young,
teeth whitening, and general dentistry. All all done with a painless
Because
injection.
so
For more info,
I was
visit
actually listening to something. I think it explains it quite well.
tmdentistry.co.za.
Can I just stop it for you? It's still live, yeah?
Okay,
I just need to stop it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm listening, yeah?
Yeah. So this guy was actually saying, you know, when you